You're listening to a 3CR podcast created in the studios of independent community radio station 3CR in Melbourne, Australia. For more information, go to allthews.3cr.org.au.
Good morning, everyone. Hope you are all well. This is Yousef, and today I will talk to you about a Palestinian icon in music, and in fact, an icon in Iraqi music. So, Rohi al-Khammash. I will also talk to you about what kind of passports do Palestinians hold and how this impacts them depending on where they are and what kind of passport/travel document they hold. We'll also listen to one of the pieces of the composer Rohi al-Khammash performed by Tarab Ensemble, and we will listen to a translation, me reading a translation of a poem written by Mahmoud Darwish. So stay with me. In the 19th century, the Ottoman ruler Sultan Abdulhamid II issued an unusual ruling when it comes to the music in Iraq. He banned it for Muslims to perform music publicly and restricted it to Christians only in the rituals in churches and allowed it to Jewish Iraqis. What that means, if you are oud or kanun or nai player, if you are a singer whose profession was to play music for income, if you are a Muslim, then you are no longer able to work as a musician. And that's why musicians did not bequeath the skills to their future generations and sons. And within generation or two, the music skills has faded among the Muslims of Iraq and largely also among the Christians of Iraq, because they only were allowed to perform at their churches but not publicly and not for money. However, those who were able to get money or to earn money from public performance of music were the Jewish Iraqis. So by the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, more than 95% of Iraqi musicians were Jewish Iraqis. There are many famous names in Qanun, in Nai, in Oud, in singing, and they are all pretty much entirely Jewish Iraqi musicians. And then came the Zionist project and the creation of a Jewish state in Palestine. And then came the migration or the movement of Iraqi Jews to the occupied Palestine, which represented a music bleed to the country, because if all musicians are Jewish and if all Jews are going to migrate to future Israel, then we will have no musicians in Iraq. On the other hand, Palestinian migrant who were driven out from Palestine because of Nakba was in his mid or late 20s, ended up in Iraq. This person is Rohi al-Khammash. Rohi al-Khammash had already received his musical upbringing in Palestine and Egypt, studied oud, studied classical Arabic music, studied at the hands of Muhammad Abdul Wahab, the Egyptian maestro, and by 46 or 47 he was performing in Jaffa in Jerusalem and was one of the most famous Palestinian musicians. Now Rohi al-Khammash ended up in Iraq. So musically speaking, Rohi pretty much swam against the stream and arrived to Iraq in time of its musical bleed and managed with a few Iraqis to revitalize contemporary music. Rohi al-Khammash to Iraqi music cannot be described and cannot be confined in one episode. Rohi al-Khammash's legacy to the music of Iraq by training young Iraqis, by starting an orchestra, by starting a choir, by also writing musical notes to the traditional Iraqi music scales known as the maqam of Iraq. And this is a genre that dates back to maybe 13 centuries ago, during the time of the Abbasid Caliphate. And the Abbasid Caliphate was the second dynasty that ruled, the second monarchy in Islam after the passing of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. The Muslim world was ruled by 4 decades of what we call in Islam the righteously guided caliphate. And after the fourth caliphate, there was the first monarchy. The first monarchy was called Umayyad monarchy, and they moved the capital from Medina and in today's Saudi Arabia to Damascus. And the Umayyad dynasty lasted for over 90 years, and it was defeated at the hands of the Abbasid dynasty. And the Abbasids had moved the Caliphate capital city to Iraq, and they built Baghdad. The new monarchy, the Abbasid dynasty, lasted for more than 5 centuries until it was destroyed at the hands of the Mongols. But during these 5 centuries, Baghdad was the hub of not only the Muslim world, but maybe the world, because it was the minaret of knowledge, the minaret of scientific advancement, and the minaret of the highest tide of translation ever witnessed in documented history. When you have this kind of atmosphere, music has a boost, and the beginning of what we now call Iraqi maqam took place. So then came Rohi al-Khammash in the 50s and said you cannot regulate the Iraqi maqam without writing musical notes. And it seems to be an impossible mission because nobody knows how many scale and subscale we have in Iraq. But he took on his responsibility, this huge task, and he ended up writing musical notes to this deep-rooted tradition of Iraqi maqam. So this is one of his contributions to contemporary Iraqi music. And this Palestinian refugee who came to Iraq in Nakba time and led the contemporary Iraqi music until he passed away in late 90s. I had the opportunity to speak to one of his students who was with him when he passed away, Mr. Ismail, who is currently in Australia, and he is a famous singer. And he said that when Rohi al-Khammash in his final day, I was with him at the hospital and we were listening to radio. There was a song for Kulthum, the Egyptian singer, and Rohi al-Khammash asked me to bring the radio closer. And while the song was on, Rohi embraced the radio while listening to Kulthum's song until his last breath. You're listening to Radio 3CR on 855 AM and Palestine Remembered, and a special segment on the Palestinian composer and icon of music, Rohi al-Khammash. This is Sama'i Nahawand by Rohi al-Khammash, performed by Tarab Ensemble at Melbourne Recital Centre last July. What was special about this performance was that it was led by Dr. Ali Abdullah, our mentor in the ensemble, and Rohi al-Khammash was the mentor of our mentor. You're listening to Palestine Remembered on 855 AM. For tickets and information about Tarab Ensemble's upcoming concert, which is going to be in 2 weeks from today, join our socials on Tarab Ensemble. That's Tarab Ensemble.
Hi, this is Rohi Ziada, and you're listening to 3CR, pro-Palestinian, happily proud radio.
I received a question. What kind of passports do Palestinians have? And to understand this, we need to go back the day before Nakba. In Palestine, the British mandate issued Palestinian passport under the Commonwealth. So it was a Palestinian passport but issued by the British government. The Palestinian Arabs and the Jewish settlers were eligible to get this passport before May 15, 1948. Now, when Israel was created, Israel issued Israeli passports to its Jewish citizens. But what about the Palestinians? First, the British passport ceased to exist. Now, where were the Palestinians? So we have 130,000 Palestinians who remained in what later became Israel. They were denied citizenship for the first 15 years, and hence they did not receive Israeli passport, and they lived under martial law. So that's with 130,000 Palestinians. The 900,000 Palestinians who were ethnically cleansed in 48, they went to either West Bank and Gaza, meaning they were internally displaced in Palestine, and the others went to Arab countries. Now, the Palestinian movement after Nakba met in Gaza, led by Sheikh Amin al-Husseini, and they decided to form a government on what was remaining, and that is Gaza and West Bank. And they called this government All Palestine Government, Hukumat Umum Palestine. They issued passports. They issued passports to all Palestinians, not just those who live in Palestine under its mandate. So they issued passports to any Palestinian who would apply. Then came the question, who recognized the Palestinian government, the All Palestine Government in 48? Of course, Israel did not recognize it. Jordan did not recognize it. Iraq did not recognize it. Egypt recognized it with hesitation. Syria and Lebanon and Saudi Arabia recognized it, which meant that the Palestinians in Syria and the Palestinian refugees in Lebanon were eligible to acquire All Palestine Government passport. And that's as of 49 and 1950. But what about the Palestinians in West Bank, who were under the custodianship of or control of the Jordanian army? They did not get the Palestinian passport. Instead, Jordan annexed West Bank in 1951, including Jerusalem. So the Palestinians of West Bank and the refugees who fled to West Bank and the Palestinians who fled to Jordan received or acquired Jordanian passports. And the passport was called the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan. This was the case for the biggest bulk of Palestinians. So they became, by early 50s, citizens of the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan. And the geography was that West Bank and Jerusalem became part of Jordan. Gaza remained independent, and it was self-ruled by the Palestinian government, All Palestine Government. And the Palestinian refugees in Lebanon and in Syria were given or were eligible to acquire the Palestinian passport. Now the situation also changed as of 1952 to 53. The Palestinian government, the All Palestine government, by early 50s and mid 50s, started to be seen by Arab countries as unable to self-rule itself in Gaza, especially with the rise of Jamal Abdel Nasser of Egypt and the rise of the idea of Pan-Arabism. So there was a summit, an Arab League summit in 1950, in early 50s, and in that summit, the Arab countries decided to issue travel documents to the Palestinian refugees living in their countries. And now we started seeing Lebanese travel documents given to the Palestinians in Lebanon, Syrian travel documents given to the Palestinians in Syria, and the same goes for Egyptian travel document and Iraqi travel document. So 4 Arab countries decided to issue travel document. Now, bear with me, I'm talking about a travel document as opposed to passport. They are not the same. Travel document is a para passport because passport means citizenship. So 4 Arab countries gave the Palestinians on their lands travel documents and granted them refugee status. And if you remember, Jordan treated the Palestinians in West Bank and in Jordan as citizens. It gave them passports because it had annexed West Bank and Jerusalem. So we here started to see some sort of heterogeneous legal status among Palestinians depending on where they are. So if they are in Jordan, they are Jordanians. If they are in Syria / Lebanon / Egypt / Iraqis, they are Arabs, but not with full rights. They are refugees. And if they are in Israel, they are without passports. So this is the situation until mid-60s. And after 1967, Israel defeated 3 Arab countries, Jordan, Syria, and Egypt, occupied West Bank, occupied Gaza, occupied Golan Heights, occupied Sinai Desert. And of course, this had a huge impact on the legality of the Palestinians. So even though Jordan had lost the land, but it maintained the the citizen status for the Palestinians in West Bank. And Israel was happy, so let them be the citizens of some other country, let them be on the payroll of someone else. The Palestinians in Gaza were under the custodianship of Egypt, so Israel occupied Gaza, but they maintained their Egyptian travel documents. And those who were in Lebanon and Syria, of course, they maintained their travel documents. Now, by mid-80s, and the rise of PLO, and the fact that PLO was seen by the Palestinians in that time as the sole and legitimate representative of all Palestinians, the Jordanian king, King Hussein, in 1988, issued a decree of disengagement with West Bank, and Jordan for the first time conceded the loss, meaning that the Palestinians in West Bank are no longer citizens of Jordan. So this had created a little bit of a mess when it comes to what kind of documents the Palestinians would hold. Are they Jordanian? Are they not Jordanian? And if they are Palestinian, there is no Palestinian Authority. But here we're talking before Oslo Accords. So by the time of 1994, when the Palestinian Authority was founded, then we started seeing Palestinian Authority passports given to the Palestinians in West Bank and in Gaza. But that did not include Jerusalem because Israel had created a special situation and special reality for people of Jerusalem. We can talk about that later. So this might sound complicated, but unfortunately reality is complicated, and this changes many aspects of the Palestinians' life. It changes movement, it changes marital status, it changes opportunities for employment, it changes everything. And the impact of the paper on the Palestinian refugees is enormous. I will leave you, before I go, with a translation of a poem by Mahmoud Darwish, On This Land. By the way, tomorrow in Northcote, I'm giving a 90-minute lecture on the legacy of Mahmoud Darwish as we are heading towards the 17th anniversary of his passing. So if you want to attend the talk, send me an email to y.remawi, that's REEMAWI @gmail.com, and I'll reply with details. That's it for now, and I will see you next Saturday. Salam. On This Land by Mahmoud Darwish. We have on this land all of that which makes life worth living. April's hesitation, the aroma of bread at dawn, a woman's amulet for men, the writings of Aeschylus, love's beginning, moss on a stone, mothers standing on a flute's thread, and the invader's fear of memories. We have on this land all of that which makes life worth living. September's end. A woman leaving 40 behind with all her apricots. The hour of sunlight in prison. A cloud reflecting a swarm of creatures. A people's applause for those who ascend to their own erasure with a smile. And the tyrant's fear of songs. We have on this land all of that which makes life worth living. On this earth, the Lady of the Earth, the mother of all beginnings, and the mother of all ends. She was called Palestine. Her name later became Palestine. My lady, because you are my lady, I have all of that which makes life worth living.
You've been listening to a 3CR podcast. If you found it valuable, please consider donating or subscribing to support independent community radio. To find out more, go to 3cr.org.au.